by the renewing of the mind today. And so I have something like, it's the first day of the World Cup opening, and a man, the stadium is filled, there's no extra seats at all, and a man sits down, and he sits down to an empty chair, and next to him is another man, there's a chair between them. And so he turns to the man and says, "Is somebody sitting in this chair?" And the guy says, "No." And he said, "Wow, I can't believe that someone bought a ticket and didn't show up." And the man that's sitting in the seat on the other side says, "Well, it was for my wife, and she made a transition." And he said, "So that's why she's not here today. And also, I just, whatever." And the guy says, "Well, didn't you have a friend or a neighbor or someone else that would want to sit there?" You've heard this before. I mean, have friend and neighbor, anybody. I mean, this is an expensive seat and a wonderful seat and ticket. And the guy says, "No, they're all at her funeral." So that's terrible. It is the month where we go back to basics and what we believe in Centers for Spiritual Living. And some of the best known quotes from Ernest Holmes, I love the one you had just now, are experiencing and expressing how we awaken to who we are, so that our physical is absolutely run by the greater good, and we're connected, and it comes out in our physical world. There is a power greater than you are, of course, is one of his most famous quotes, and you can use it, and I add, and let it use you too, because it is that two-way path. You have to be open and receptive to that mind of God. And so what I call the divine spirit, God, Buddha, Krishna, whatever you want to call it, Ernest Holmes calls it the thing itself. There is nothing else but that energy, and it is up to us, that only wants the highest and best for us. But it also says just yes. So if I say I'm going to have a great day, because our words are very powerful and they do shape our mind, then what do I get is a great day. Not only do I say it, but I believe it in my deepest level of understanding. Then what do I have? A great day. If I say, I wake up and say, "Oh God, it's another day," what you get is, "Oh God, it's another day that you suffer through." And so those are some of the simple things. So, and of course, change your thinking, change your life. And that's easier many times said than done, because the things we think we want are not necessarily what we want. I had a wonderful experience, and I'm cautious about, I'm not promoting anybody here. I just want to promote my experience, and it was with Sabina. And it was this last week, and I did hypnotherapy with her. And what I sent her was kind of obscure. I didn't realize it at the time. It was an obscure idea, and that obscure idea blossomed incredibly under this session. And I can't tell you, it's already changing my life. It's amazing to me. And she did not say anything until afterwards. She said, people usually want a thing. What I wanted was something spiritual, an awakening on something spiritual. And by the way, what happened there, and it was with clarity, is that I could not understand what I was, after all my knowledge and, and all the reading and everything else, and telling you all, it's all one, we believe in, one source, many paths. What came out of that is that what I'm really craving is the love of the Christ, the wisdom of the Vedanta Krishna, and the detachment of the Buddha. And it was just, I still can't get over that. And how that is probably what we all crave in our lives, to be kind of exact. And it's more than that. That's actually pigeonholing it, because the Buddha just doesn't, there's separation there too, but the qualities that came out that I'm really looking for were revealed in that session. And what Sabina said, and what we know, but I'm going to repeat it, is what is so powerful. In that symbol back there, the science of mind symbol, and you've known it, it's the big V. And the big V at the top is we are open at the top. It is the thing itself. It is the energetic presence in and through and as I call God. Some call it again Buddha, Krishna. Whatever it is all there is. It is the infinite. And it goes down into the subconscious mind where, it goes into the conscious mind. So what we say goes into that thought process. and then it goes into the subconscious mind. And what actually runs us is our subconscious mind. The subconscious mind absolutely is the ship. And it is so interesting. Sabina was saying the ship is just the shell, as we are just the shell, but the subconscious mind is the engine and the power behind it. So if I say, and I said this to her, if I say I want a red sports car, I don't really care about a red, by the way, who has a red sports car here before I diss it? That's right. It's not for the red sports car necessarily, it's for the recognition. She has a Corvette. Yeah, Mystic, which is no longer Mystic, but it was, your license plate said Mystic. Anyway, on it. It's usually, what is it that we want? Do we want a relationship that works for us? But what is it that we really want? Do we want the security? Do we want the love? Do we want the connection? What is it in all of that we want when we go within and ask for these simple things? And so my support, all of my talks this month are to support those beginning principles, but our class is going to be different now, and I'm meeting with Betty Ann after church today for just a few minutes so we can clarify what we're doing. She is so fabulous. She is, you are the Tao. You just go with the flow. You're amazing. But go with the flow with such wisdom also. And she never calls me and harasses me. So thank you. Thank you for being you. That's all I can say. So what I want to explain right here and right now is that in support of these talks, we're going to be handing out what we believe during the class and also our core concepts, but those are a bunch of words. We're going to be doing a lot of experiential things too to embody that which we want, and we're going to do not cliff notes by any means, but we're going to embody that experience of getting to the subconscious without doing hypnotherapy or anything, but getting into the subconscious and realizing how powerful we are. What is so interesting is one of the things I've been really wanting to do is, in case you hadn't noticed, Camarillo is pretty white. I mean, I don't know how else to say this. And I would love if we had all sorts of people come into this church and into this center. And I've even, when the Baptists were next to us, and they were black and wonderful, they're no longer next to us anymore, and the building next to us, I went over, I asked, can we do Thanksgiving with you? And it was reaching out to them. It wasn't them reciprocating in any way, although they were warm and lovely. It was like two different worlds colliding for them. For me, it was, let's get to be neighbors. It wasn't about race or anything else. And I don't think it was about that for them either. It could be just about religious differences, but also it's so interesting. So what happens is this invitation falls in my lap, and last night, and it was so powerful that it actually shook me. It was that's how powerful it was, and what I learned last night in this group, and I'll share that some other time. So first, what we're not. I always hate to do this because what we're not is Scientology. And you asked, I love this because as I just said this, I remember Plum and Sabina shared a story with me. You'll have to hear their story about going to the Scientology Center in Los Angeles because it's hilarious. I tell that story to everybody, but I don't want to tell your story. So anyway, we're not Scientology because what we are is we don't tell you how to think. We show you and give you the tools on not what to think. We show you how to think. We give you the tools so that you can connect with the deepest part of your own self, the subconscious, and that which drives us into affirming that which we really do want. And what is really seeking us, we are seeking, but sometimes it's just not clear. Sometimes it's to pay the rent, sometimes it's to get the red car, but that's just the surface. That's nothing. And so what drives us is who we are deep inside, and there's no one like you in the whole wide world. We know this. Your fingerprints are all different. We're just like snowflakes. Our eye prints are all different. Our purpose here is all different. You can't be anybody else, and the joke is because it's already been taken. You can't be anybody else. You have to find out who you are, and if you put that mask on as being someone else, you'll never find out who you are until you go deep within. And so this is what this class coming up is going to reveal to you. And it could be something spiritual. It could be a widget. It could be a mate of some sort. It could be a best friend of some sort. It could be an experience. But we are going to take you deeper and have you experience that which you is craving and screaming at you, but sometimes we just push all those down. We push it down, push it down, push it down. And what happens when you push stuff down? It's the volcano. Then it comes out all at once. And so I just invite you to be in the classes with us. And I want to tell you that Red Bird and Red Tail will be with us also. And we're going to be ending with meditations, and they are supporting us. Did you know this?
Yes.
Okay. She's been gone. I met with Red Bird. I didn't meet with Red Tail. Thank you so much. At the end, we're going to be using different meditative envisioning techniques also to embody that which you are and what you're not. So one of the major differences between us is that we believe that we are unique and that we don't tell you what to say, how to think, what to do, or anything else. We allow you to find out who you are and the gift you bring into this world. And it doesn't matter how old you are. I can testify to this. I'm not a spring chicken, and I have, oh my gosh, this awakening that happened. And it doesn't matter how old you are or what stage you are in your life. It is the thing itself that absolutely wants us to hear ourselves and embody it. That is only and personally unique to us. So we believe that there is that power that is greater than we are, and we can use it. And our unique gifts that we share are the gifts to the world. If you keep your gift from the world, Peter and his music, that is your great, you have other gifts too, but one of your great gifts. Mary Jane, always holding the high watch and knowing the truth. I could go around to every single person here. Juliet, I was going to combine your last names and call you Claudette, and I said, that's just not right. Juliet with her art. We have Dodie with her love. I mean, we can go on and on and on and on about our gifts that are so unique and different. Rai with his music too, and Pamela with her brilliance and her blossoming and her speaking and everything else. It goes on and on. So if I didn't mention your name, I know we're not a big crowd right here, but today. But if I didn't, please forgive me, because it's all. So science of mind is a metaphysical teaching. It's a teaching, as Jesus said, where we walk in faith rather than in sight. For the material world is the experience, but the actual where we form our material world is what in our subconscious that goes from the everything, the infinite, to the conscious, the mindfulness, into the subconscious, which says, well, I've been running you all the time. It's not easy sometimes to reach that subconscious. It says, but I like who I am. I don't have to do anything here. But wakening the subconscious to a new idea, a new way of being, and then watching it out picture in your life. I've had so many demonstrations throughout my life. I've been in metaphysics, not necessarily science of mind, since I was like 20. But I remember I had been through a divorce, and I wrote everything I wanted in a guy, and I actually saw him walking on the beach, and that was Patrick, and I got everything I wanted. I should have asked for a bigger house in my own consciousness, though I always say, although I love where I live. But he went along with it. He went along with all the animals, all the skunks sleeping with us, and the coyotes, and the owls, and everything else. He went along with it. Not many guys will do this, I'm just telling you. So when we think about where we are and what we've manifested in our life, it is because we are connected with Source. And you know when you're connected and when you're not connected. When you're not connected, you're like floundering everywhere. But when you're connected at your deepest part, you just get this big yes inside. And you have the energy to go forward with it. And whatever it takes to get something done, you do it. And I think in so many areas of my life that just mirrors beautifully. So religious science is unique because it's a philosophy. It's a science. But Tom England says, where's the science here? It's a philosophy, it's a science, And it's a religion. It's a religion because we believe in something greater than we are. It's a philosophy because we do it in comparative. We compare everything and study everything to find out what works in all of the religions, what's the commonality, and also what works best for us. And it is a science because they talk about the wholeness and the oneness on the planet, always. And I always say, you know, Ernest had lots of friends. Ernest, I'll use my... Ernie, my pal, Ernest, I never met him. I just missed him though. I was at the you know, the center, the foundations place in at Wilshire. It was at 3rd and
That's on 6th.
6th Street, right, in Los Angeles, and it was when Hornaday had just taken over, I believe. So, and Hornaday, I've told everybody this story. I'm sitting in the balcony, and I see this light around Hornaday. And I remind you, I'm in film and video at that time. Probably not video, but film. I don't think they had video at that time, but film. And I see this light around him, Hornaday, and I don't know anything. I like what he's saying, and as he moves, that light follows him. I'm thinking, boy, they have a really great lighting guy here. They didn't have any lighting guy. That was his aura. And I couldn't believe how his vibration did that. I was just, that's pretty astounding to me. And who else did that is, and I talked to her, she's not here. I hope she doesn't hear this. But Dr. Sue, sometimes, Dr. Sue, by the way, Dr. Sue's going to drop in. She doesn't want to be tied down, you know how she is, but she's going to be dropping into our classes too, which is great. And we have about 10 people so far that we know of. I just thought I'd tell you that up here too, Betty. Yeah. So anyway, Dr. Sue, when she was at Westlake, and I really didn't know it. I mean, I was a member, and I, you know, I loved her, and we had gone through a crisis, and she's speaking, and there's a light that follows her, but she moves so quick, it's like she's over here and the light is trying to catch up. And I thought, oh my gosh, she's got the aura, she's got the light around her. And I just was more fascinated with the light than what she was saying because of her pureness and strength and truth of who she is coming through. So it explores, Science of Mind explores all the spiritual teachings worldwide. And it is about that oneness too. Because when you look at this, long before, by the way, Ernest was friends with Einstein, lots of stars. The one that Peggy Lee, but my fave was Cary Grant. He followed Ernest and did spent a lot of time with him. He also hung out with Paramahansa Yogananda, the founder of Self-Realization in America. They were right down the road from one another, and they actually visited each other's sites. The Self-Realization, above the 101, the Highway 1 up off of Sunset. Yeah, and so they shared a lot. So he had the Eastern, the Western, the obscure teachings, everything that he studied, and then he came up with Science of Mind. And what was so interesting is way before Einstein's string theory, he said, we're all one, we're all connected. It's like William Blake's poem, one of my favorites. We are the world in a grain of sand. We are not a drop in the ocean. We are the ocean in a drop. We are not the air we breathe. We are breathing all of the air on this planet since the beginning of time. The same air. So we are breathing Jesus's air and Krishna's and Buddha's and everybody else's air. And also, I've said this over and over again, we're drinking the same recycled water. So I always think this is so appealing. We're drinking the dinosaur's pee. So it's been recycled so many times. But we know this is a fact now, that we are one, and that God particle that they are still talking about it, though it has nothing really to do with God, but the God particle is in each and every one of us to express uniquely and wonderfully and different. So I think that Ernest was a mystic, and he understood and saw that which was beyond the laws of science and the laws of religion at that time, and he saw that unification of all life. So Ernest did not originally intend, you probably know this, and this always encouraged me. He didn't want this to be a religion at all, and there was a big split over the church on this. He was consciously conscious that he wanted to keep this as a teaching. He didn't want to separate it out as a religion. He wanted people to come to learn how to live spiritual lives but he didn't want it to be a religion. And when it became a religion and they built the edifice, he would never call it a church on 6th Street in Los Angeles. The only time he went there was to sanctify it and to honor it, but he never went in again because he didn't feel that this was dogmatic in any way. He wanted everybody to be open at the top and to evolve just naturally from where they were into their greatness. So that actually made me feel really good about why he split and the split that was there. And of course, my understanding, and I'm still going to do research on this, but I read this or heard it a long, long time ago. The reason the rest of the board wanted them to become a church was because they did not want, they needed the money. How do I say this? All the farmers, a lot of Ventura County farmers were donating to him, and they finally said, we need a write-off. And so he had to become a 501c3 for the write-offs, and that's why he became a church. And he didn't believe in that either. He believed that they would survive no matter what. So the universal mind contains all the knowledge. It is the potential ultimate of all things. To it, all things are possible. And Ernest Holmes' subconscious, the driver of the ship, was exactly where he went when things were not going well. Let's check your consciousness. Let's go back and see what's happening to you. Why aren't you manifesting that what you say? What is holding you back in your life? And so the mental healing work of Phineas Quimby, here are some of the people in his life. And Phineas Quimby was quite a character, and he was way back in the 1800s, and there was this new thought which we're part of, and also very interesting, the Mormons are part of, and they call it New Thought because it was after Jesus was introduced. So all of these new thought ideas were coming up. So we're in the New Thought category, science of mind is. So he knew, so Phineas Quimby was the father, many times we think of metaphysics in the early 1800s, and what he had was tuberculosis, and he was a farm boy, and he he was miserable. He was in such pain, and he was miserable most of his life. And he also, they put him on something. It wasn't. It was some drug. It was a natural drug, but it was rotting his teeth. And he thought, oh my gosh, I'm a young boy. How am I going to, present myself to the world? And am I going to make it through this with this tuberculosis? And what he discovered is when he rode his horse very, very fast, the excitement and the power changed his mind. He actually had that surge of saying, oh my God, and he started breathing better, and he literally cured himself. And he is the one who started, change your mind, change your thinking, change your life. He actually saw the connection between the mind and the body and how you can heal once you are in that space. So, Holmes was strongly influenced also by Emma Curtis Hopkins and Mary Baker Eddy. Emma Curtis Hopkins was still one of my faves as a healer and a woman, and who she was is you have to read some of her books, but she was Mary Baker Eddy's favorite student, but she broke away and she started her own branch of New Thought, because Christian Science is also New Thought too. So what is your mind most conformed to? What would you like what would a transformed mind do for you, and what would it look like? The Apostle Paul offers valuable insight on how close that gap is between the knowing and the doing and the being. He said, do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and good, perfect will. And don't allow the world to squeeze you into a mold. Don't allow yourself to be less than God created you to be. And sometimes it's very hard. I'm looking at Ryan right now, who is on his path and has not been squeezed into the mold. Maybe a little. You have a real job now. I'm not kidding, I'm teasing. He's an entrepreneur, and for right now, he's doing something I think is wonderful. I don't know if you think it's wonderful. Okay, great, you do. Okay, great. No, I'm not gonna tell your story either, anyway. So, I ran out of my story, so I'm picking on the, so be transformed. Transformation doesn't just happen to you without trying. You have to be proactive about it. Take classes, do meditation, learn, and you know what's wonderful about classes is you get really close to the people in your classes. It's a bonus there, and they become lifelong friends. And I was in a couple classes with Juliet, I know that, but who I went all through Science of Mind was Diane Brabant. And we're still close. And I remember I was so, speaking about wanting someone to do something against their will, I wanted her to go to ministerial with me, but she had 3 jobs, and Stephen said, I'll never see you, so she didn't. And it was good for her, I'm sure, but I was still upset that she didn't go into ministerial with Patrick and I. So by renewing your mind, the outward transformation of your life is made possible by the inner transportation. It's all an inside job. And when you know that, and you are that, and you get that, and then you take the steps you need to become that which you desire beyond the physicality of it, to feel better, to be more awakened, to be more expansive in your heart and your mind, then there are tools that we can use to reinforce that which is being revealed to you. And it's just, we have the eternal path of evolving. We are on the eternal path of evolving. And when it never stops throughout eternity. I'm just saying, it's exhausting even talking about it. But we are here because we have been chosen in some form. Our soul is here to become wiser, to become more awakened, so that the next experience in our lives, because this body is like that ship, it will rot, it will fade, it will rust, but our soul is what remains strong and always with you. So I invite you to come to class, take your practices deeper, and your conscious minds and subconscious minds can and will be renewed. That's a promise. Plus you make lifelong friends in classes, and so it is. I love each and every one of you. God is the power.